welcome to the latest installment of My Dad Listens to This. I'm Juliet, the daughter.
And I'm Kevin, the dad. And Jules, what did you pick for us this time around?
This week, we are talking about Boomtown by David and David. So, Dad, what do we need to know about this duo?
Okay, we need to know that David Bearwald was born in Oxford, Ohio, July 11th, 1960. He moved to Los Angeles in the late 70s. David Ricketts was born in Philadelphia, PA, November 16th, 1953. He moved to Los Angeles in 1980. Both became studio musicians, and they met at a club in mid-1984. They hit it off and started writing songs and playing together. Now, to make ends meet, David B. worked as a messenger and a donut shop clerk, whilst David R. worked as a painter, which I'm assuming like house painter. They signed a contract with A&M Records after a friend whose sister was temping at A&M persuaded the staffer to listen to their demo tape. Their only album, Boomtown, was released July 7th, 1986. They played almost all the instruments on the album. The first single, Welcome to the Boomtown, hit the top 40, peaking at number 37, while the album peaked at number 39 on the Billboard 200 Albums chart. Subsequent singles were released that hit the Hot 100, but did not crack the top 40. The album itself went gold in 1995. And it got rave reviews everywhere. This is like, one of the great albums of the year. Now, after that, the Davids went their separate ways, sort of. Bearwald put out 2 solo albums, Bedtime Stories and Triage. In 1992, he and producer Bill Bottrell founded the Tuesday Music Club, a loose assemblage of musicians who would become the creative force behind Sheryl Crow's debut album, Tuesday Night Music Club. His songs have been covered by Pavarotti, Susanna Hoffs, Leanne Rimes, and Waylon Jennings, to name a few.
Wow.
He also wrote the song Come What May for the movie Moulin Rouge. It was
hey, musical theater connection here.
Yeah, it was nominated for a Golden Globe, and it won an International Film Music Award, whatever that is. I guess that's good. He continues to write songs and score movies and TV shows. As for David Ricketts, he had a relationship with Tony Childs, said Union being the inspiration for her debut album, Union, which David R. co-wrote and produced. He was also part of the Tuesday Music Club and got songwriting credits on Leaving Las Vegas and Strong Enough in collaboration with Sheryl Crow on her debut. Now, he won an Emmy along with Tony Childs and Eddie Free for the song Because You're Beautiful from the 2004 documentary V-Day Until the Violence Stops, which was on Lifetime television. And that is all I was able to find.
Now, how'd you find out about them?
What do you mean?
How'd you find out about this album? That's what I always ask you every time we do the show.
As for me, we were getting to that part.
Okay.
As for me, I heard half of this album on WBRU back in 1986. I mean, Boomtown was like really big. And they just, like I said, they ended up playing half the album. They played Welcome to the Boomtown, Swallowed by the Cracks, Ain't So Easy, and River's Gonna Rise. And I ended up picking up a used copy of Boomtown at Newberry Comics. I'm not sure exactly when, but it's in my collection, and
there it is.
There it is. Shall we dive in?
Oh, yes, let's. All right. First track, Welcome to the Boomtown.
Great to be here. From
the opening, I thought, this is either going to be really good, or it's going to be like when Spinal Tap did Stonehenge. Because it's very 80s, and not all the music in the 80s was great. And my verdict is, it's as if they're trying to combine the 80s sound with lyrics that are heavily inspired by Bob Dylan.
Okay.
We hear the story of a boomtown where the rich are doing typical rich people things such as snorting coke and dealing dope out of a Dennys, which, yeah, that tracks. Side note, who'd win in a fight, Dennys or Waffle House?
What's that?
Who'd win in a fight, Dennys or Waffle House?
Oh, Waffle House would win in a fight.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, easily.
Audience, you put your thoughts in the comments. The whole point of this song is that the 1% are really their own worst enemy because all the money in the world can't make them happy. I mean, you hear stories of people who won the lottery, suddenly had all these millions, and were miserable the rest of their lives. But I don't feel too bad for the wealthy elites. They made the mess, and they have to clean it up. The work shouldn't be on us, it should be on them. Yet, even with the poignancy here, the song doesn't leave as much an impression on me as the Dead Kennedys or Alice Cooper singing about the same topic. I think that the music is epic and the singer has a great voice, and the lyrics are great, but together they don't work. I didn't really feel anything more so of, yeah, I know this already, but what else have you guys got? So I'm hoping things get better.
Huh. So welcome to the Boomtown, and that town is L.A., baby. This song reminds me of Nathaniel West's book, Day of the Locust, which is about the dirty underbelly of Hollywood. Lots of rot beneath the glamour. And I highly recommend reading that book. It's less than 200 pages, but man, it's eye-opening. Came out in the early 30s. And one of the characters' names is, believe it or not, Homer Simpson.
Really?
Really.
Wow. Huh.
Yep.
How'd they get away with that?
Well, the book came out in 1930.
Yeah, okay.
So we have to ask, how did the
Simpsons get away with that? Yeah.
Anyway, I really didn't look at it as a song about the 1%. I just looked at it about people in Los Angeles who just, came out and were thinking, yeah, I'm going to make it. It's going to be great. And, oh, this is what happened instead. Like, okay, granted, coked out Miss Christina drives a 944 Porsche. And those were only manufactured from 1982 to 1991. So she keeps bars on her doors, either to keep the world out or herself in.
Ooh.
And toward the end of the song, we find out her fate.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's handsome Kevin. He took a year off of college and he never went back and now deals dope out of Dennys. And the line about Dennys reminds me of when Mike and I went to California in 1993.
Oh, no.
That was we're turning 30 years old. We're going to go to California, which we did. And we wound up at a Denny's in L.A. And let me tell you, it was kind of dicey in there. Because we ate and left as fast as we could because there were a lot of shifty characters in there. Now, as for the rest, I had to live out a few of those lines. But I want to say, for the record, I've never dealt dope at Denny's or Waffle House or Arby's or any other fast food chain or any other fine restaurant establishment.
All right, you heard it here.
Okay, now, when I was a kid, and this is a really little kid, okay? Like 4 or 5 years old.
Oh, is this the story you were telling me Mom knows about, but that I don't know about?
I don't think you know about this. When people ask me what my name was, I would say, my name is Handsome.
Why?
I was 4 or 5.
Oh, my God.
And the thing is, you can check with Nana on this because she will back me up.
I'm calling her out.
I cannot remember doing this, but she says I did it. And looking back, I'm thinking, yeah, I was probably a cute enough kid to get away with it. You're 4 or 5, people think, oh, that's cute. You're 54, 55, it's not so cute.
No.
And hey, back then, when you got it, you got it. Now, the really tough line for me to face was, took a year off of college and he never went back. Because for a number of years, that was me. Because I did a year and a half at Rhode Island College.
Yeah.
And then I stopped going because I got to a point where I wasn't going to class. I was like...
I never knew that.
Yeah, I was going to the student union because, hey, we're showing a Marx Brothers movie. So Marx Brothers movie or English class. Yeah, I think I'll check out the Marx Brothers movie. It was a night at the opera from what I seem to remember. And so I realized, well, I'm kind of wasting money doing this, so I should probably stop going. So during that period, I just worked at Almax first, the supermarket, and then Leonard Safety Equipment. And when that song came on at work, when I was at Leonard's at the time, I think, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? Nothing. I'm like, you should really do something. But I don't know, it was just no motivation. I don't know why. And almost 2 years went by just vacillating. Then in 1988 at Leonard's, when Serge the accountant left, I started doing just like basic bookkeeping, like toting up the cash sales for the day, going to the bank, making the daily deposits. I mean, the bank was pretty close by. And I thought, I should probably take a basic accounting class so I know what I'm doing. So I took a night class at CCRI that Richard Morin taught. And then he hired me to work at Blue Cross of Rhode Island, Blue Shield of Rhode Island, because he said, hey, we're looking for people. I think you do really well there. And I thought, okay, it's kind of time to move on from the safety shop because I'd gone as far as I was going to go.
Yeah.
And so when I got there, you know, eventually, a couple of years down the road, one of the managers told me if I wanted to make more money, at least get an AS in accounting, which is an associate's in science. So I did. And I worked full time and then went to school part-time nights year round for, I think that took about 4 years. That was a year-round grind because I'd go during the summer too where like, hey, we'll cram, you know, a semester of college in half the time.
Yep.
And when I was doing that and I met your mom, she was doing the same thing where she was working full time and she was getting her master's in counseling and we were just grinding it out. And then we realized, okay, we've got a couple of hours on Thursdays where we're both free, so we'll just hang out. And that was it. So eventually I got the degree in 1996. And then they told me if I wanted to get even more money, get a BS. So I didn't, because around that time, you were born.
Yeah.
And so I left to become a full-time dad, and it was the classic, not confrontation, but when I gave my 2 weeks, my manager, Brian, asked, what'll it take to get you to stay? And I said, you would have to triple my salary so I can make what my wife's making so she can leave to take care of you, because one of us, we decided, was going to stay home. And he said, I can't do that. And I said, well, then I have to leave. And that was that.
Bye.
So you probably learned a thing or two about me just now.
This is our most autobiographical episode yet.
Well, you know, if it was Handsome Joey or whoever, probably wouldn't have related as much. Meanwhile, back to the song. Yeah, it's very atmospheric. And the one thing that really struck me listening to this, I mean, I've listened to this a lot, but it just really finally struck me that it's very almost Peter Gabriel-esque, where you've got like these expansive songs that really take their time, but they've got like this interesting sound quality to them that no one else was really doing. Like the 80s was a lot of like Farfisa organ and drum machines and we're going to dance our pants off kind of thing. And when that struck me, I thought, yeah, this was kind of a sound back then. Back in the 80s, it was like, okay, Peter Gabriel, maybe Genesis, because Gabriel was in Genesis at one point, and this album, and I'm sure there were other ones. And one of the Davids is really good on guitar. I'm not sure which one because the credits are all lumped under David and David. I think they both take turns singing the songs, but to me, the voices just sound so familiar. It's tough to separate them, even though, like, I checked the video for Welcome to the Boomtown, and that one's definitely David Bayerwald on the lead vocals.
Okay, cool. Next track, Swallowed by the Cracks.
Oh,
God, is this what's going to happen to me when my 20s are over?
It's up to you.
This song is a cautionary tale. The singer tells the story of him, the girl he was in love with, and his best friend, who happens to be the girl's brother, which, They all had plans to be a dancer, actor, and writer, respectively. They felt on top of the world, but the problem was they never did anything. The best friend ran away, the girl works in a store, and the singer is now a drunken whore. His words, not mine. However, there is a glimmer of hope, for as the singer reminds us, it ain't over till you say it's over. He wants to
That's very Yogi Berra-esque.
Yeah, he wants to try again, but he's going to sing his feelings out first. I have to say, I like this track a bit better because it serves as a good reminder to me. I mean, I work a full-time job, but I still host a podcast, write scripts for voice actors, practice singing and dancing, and I want to get back on stage soon. Make my dad sit through the Who's Tommy, but that's for another time.
If you get the part, I will. If you don't, nope.
It's a reminder to me not to give up on what I'm passionate about and not to let it slip through the cracks. So I'm glad I listened to this song if for no other reason than this.
Yeah, David was going to be a choreographer, Eileen an actress, and Steve a writer. But they got, well, refer to the title. Best lines, we could talk through the night about what we would do if we could just get started. But the song really doesn't tell us what led them to be swallowed by the cracks. We know their individual fates, but how did they get there? Was it just not being motivated? They just didn't want to work on their dreams? Or they got to a point where it's like, yeah, it's probably just is never going to happen. Or was it Reaganomics? Kind of a mystery. You figure this is 1986. He's halfway through his second term.
Mm-hmm.
You never know. I don't know.
Spoiler alert, folks, Reaganomics doesn't work.
But for the I kind of find the music a little upbeat, contrasting with the subject matter. And once again, to quote the writer Bobby Ann Mason, it's happy music about sad stuff.
Mm-hmm. All right, next track. Ain't So Easy. Uh-oh, techno synths are happening, and I don't know if I like it. The nerve of this man. He says we can either stay together or move along. And oh, by the way, sorry about your eye. Which, what? It sounds like he popped her one, and his apology is absolute shit, because you could tell it's an afterthought. The rest of the song doesn't matter after that, with his sweet words about dancing and kissing and making up. Kissing and making up is not good enough after this. Whether or not the person takes you back is up to them, but they are under no obligation whatsoever. I just tuned out the rest of the song and started cussing out the character in my head. I knew those synths weren't a good sign.
Oh, yeah, I kind of had a feeling you would. Yeah, this is the Don't Leave, I'm Begging You song. Sorry about your eye, but let's go dancing. I'll make it up. I swear, I'm going to change. But she's got that packed suitcase and is ready to leave. But does she? It's kind of up in the air. You'd like to think she would. But his thing is like, well, what else are we going to do? You know? And the one thing about this song is, I never noticed this before, but this song sounds just like the Eurythmics song You Have Placed a Chill in My Heart, which came out a year later. And these two songs could be so easily mashed together. Not a problem at all. I was just really, really surprised.
All right. Next.
Could be a lawsuit there, fellas.
It could be.
Might want to look into it.
Hey,
if Huey Lewis could win, could sue Ray Parker over Ghostbusters, anything can happen.
Next track, Being Alone Together. Okay, hear me out.
Okay.
Some of those guitar chords sound like they could be in the Pina Colada song.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If you want a better version of this song, Being Alone Together, listen to Sunshine of Your Love by Cream. This song starts out with a similar premise. Guy and girl make love, basking in the afterglow, but then it goes into one-night stand territory where the girl cries as he gets dressed, and it goes nowhere. There are moments where the drums get more percussive and the singer adds more grit to his voice, but it returns to the same chords that sound like they were lifted out of Rupert Holmes or even Jimmy Buffett, and the story doesn't progress. We're stuck in this hellish loop of the same chords over and over, with vocal scatting that doesn't fit the vibe, and a singer going, "La-da who?"
Yeah.
Over and over until I want to strangle him. I bet the sex was boring too. Girl, go find another guy or Mr. Vibrator, because you'll feel more with that than this song.
Lot of who? Well, I kind of looked at it as like it's the end of the relationship, and they're just kind of going through the motions, because he says, good morning, honey. Did you sleep okay? It's going to be a beautiful day. By the way, can you see I'm slipping away? It's kind of like, yeah, we're in this routine of saying like the usual daily rituals. Yeah, daily ritual pleasantry stuff. And I kind of looked at it as like, they've been together for quite a while, and they found out that each other was not whom they really expected. But they're still together. So I don't know if it's like, are they just roomies now because it's an economic thing? Like, yeah, we're in LA and we probably wouldn't be able to live in a place on our own, and we kind of know each other, and that's all that we've kind of got for now, so we should probably just stick it out until we can make it here. Then we can make it. No, that's New York. Sorry,
Dad.
And I'm surprised this song didn't get played on the radio, because I think it could have been a hit.
Okay. Next track, A Rock for the Forgotten. Okay, it got better. There was a different tone with the music, and we have a new singer, which made my ears prick up. He has a bit of a country twang in his singing voice, and the higher harmonies provide a nice subtle contrast.
That could be Mr. Ricketts then.
Yeah. The lyrics of this song reminded me of a modern-day Iceman Cometh, but better, because I'm not going to lie, it wasn't one of my favorite plays to read. I didn't like it. You've got the regulars who always come in, and the bartender knows all of their stories, and they like him because he's their rock, the one constant in their lives.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll come alive, but not today. This is the closest I've come to wanting to add a song to my playlist for this show, but we'll see.
Okay. Yeah, it's the bartender who's the rock serving the, I I guess you could call them beautiful losers in LA who come in, or maybe just the plain old losers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this song is okay, but it's been done before. Like you said, you know, the Iceman cometh,
Mm-hmm.
but it's all right. It kind of almost falls into those cliches, like, because it's just kind of a familiar trope, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
Not a bad song.
Okay. Next track, River's Gonna Rise. Well, someone knows Nietzsche's quotation about God is dead and we have killed him and the empty churches are his tomb. What's unique about this song is you think it's just a guy who's lost faith because the world around him sucks with murder, thievery, drug deals, etc. But there's a moment at the end where the newsman says, curfew is starting, and you realize, uh-oh, it's dystopian. It's an important reminder that it could always happen, and we need to watch for it. Because if we do end up in a dystopian society, then we'll be praying for the end to come with the rising river. And the way they do the river rising musically with ascending notes higher and higher on the electric guitar provides the listeners with some great visualizations. A sobering jam for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I looked at it as like, not just like a seasonal flood, like, you know, hey, you know, mudslide, the old California thing. I mean, I looked at it as like, you know, we're talking epic biblical proportions, like end of the world type of stuff. But it seemed to me like, you know, the people are just going crazy, like they're partying, they're dancing, they're ransacking the joint. You know, it's like end of the world, let's just get away with whatever we can possibly get away with. And I thought, well, either they probably don't know better or they've just resigned themselves to this fate.
Mm-hmm.
Either that or maybe they're really good swimmers. And I'll wager a guess that Reagan is the propped up puppet watching all the proud things die.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, yep, I made this mess and hey, I'm up here and you're all down there and see ya.
Sayonara.
I'll wave as the river
rises.
Yep, and carries you with it.
Next track, Swimming in the Ocean. Speaking of swimming, the way this track started with the distortion, I thought my headphones weren't working. The premise of this song is that two people are going at it, and while they're really trying, bless their hearts, it's not clicking. The most telling lyric is, a double-backed beast without the holy lotions, which implies friction where there shouldn't be friction, and all I can say is, ouch.
Oh.
The singer even sounds robotic at one point to convey how passionless and going through the motions this really is. But the swimming in the ocean part makes it sound as if hopefully these two were able to let go. And there's even some moaning, which in this context is a good sign. Or she's faking it. As for the peeping Tom who's watching them, he sounds surprisingly cool about the whole thing, almost analyzing their sex like an intellectual. That being said, I'd still call the cops on this guy.
Huh, that's interesting because I thought it was, I looked at it differently. I thought, well, the singer has had it with love or lust or one-night stands, the whole schmear. And just for one night, he's going to be the detached observer, just taking it all in, trying to figure out, why do people do this? Why do people act the way they do? It's like he's swum in that ocean enough times to know what it's all about. And maybe he hopes to learn just something by observing.
Mm-hmm.
And if he doesn't learn anything, maybe just dive back into the morass, because what else are you going to do? To quote Yogi Berra, you can observe a lot by watching.
Mm-hmm. You can.
And I think that happens sometimes to people where, like, you've done something so many times, you kind of step back and kind of try to analyze it, like, why am I doing this? Why do other people do this? And you kind of watch or try to figure out this behavior, like what spurs people on to, you know, making the beast with two backs, or just any number of things.
Mm-hmm.
Could be like social gatherings, could just be any number of things,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
which I can't think of at the moment. But I don't know, it's kind of like, and I wonder if people resent that, where, like, if they're at, like, some sort of public gathering and they realize that you're there but you're not participating, you're just kind of watching, and it's almost kind of like going to a human zoo, I suppose. And some people might look and think, well, why are you here if you're not going to jump in?
Well, I already know what the human zoo is. Reality TV.
Oh, interesting. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, I try not to watch a lot of it. Huh.
Yeah. Next track, All Alone in the Big City. Okay, some bass chords on the piano. Always appreciated with that resonance that's fun to bang on when you're a kid with no clue how to actually play. There's another sexual encounter in this one, but this time there's an undercurrent of danger. This is giving me two people sneaking into an alley kind of vibes. I can't tell if the woman is doing this because she's sexually adventurous, or if the guy in the situation is a client and she needs to make it with him. The best lyric in this whole thing is, "Rock and roll is easy, it's love that you surmount," which I think nails it, especially with how we as a culture tend to romanticize love in media. These lyrics make the song slightly more accurate to a wham bam thank you ma'am than, say, a soft porn. The instrumental at the end is a nice touch because it implies they're taking their sweet time, but also glancing over their shoulders so they don't get caught.
Huh, interesting. I kind of looked at it differently, like when it comes right down to it, the big city don't care. Everyone's got their own life that they're trying to get through. And, you know, he's with the whore, and, you know, he tries to tell his problems to her, and she can't sympathize and spells out the obvious that, hey, you know, we're all alone in the big city. You know, there's millions of us here, but no one really cares, and you just got to make your way through, and that's it. $50, please. And nice menacing groove on this one. Probably, like you said, those low notes.
All right, final track, Heroes. Man, his losing streak is longer than Mick Jagger's. So, okay, when you name your song Heroes, everyone's inevitably going to compare it to the big one. So we're not going to do that here, because that's not fair to this group since they inevitably will lose. This song, this version of Heroes, has a nice simple message about working together in spite of the differences between us, or with how life chewed us up and spat us out. Even if it's meaningless, you still have to try, and maybe to someone you'll be a hero for at least trying, which is a good message that more people should hear. And they can sing a straight ballad. More power to them for writing one as well.
And I think in this case, it almost kind of contradicts Alone in the Big City, in that, like you said, you know, everyone's trying, you just got to keep hanging on. We're all in this together. Like, you may think you're the only one who's struggling to get through the daily grind in general, but everyone else is trying to do the same thing.
Yep.
And yeah, it's definitely not the Bowie song. And I think in this case, it's being, I'm using my quotation fingers here, a hero, just doing the everyday stuff you have to do to get through another day. And, you know, still being alive at the end of the day. Because someday it could all fall apart, but you keep on going. And maybe that's the note of hope on which the Davids close this album, because for the most part, it's just been, you know, these portraits, if you will, of these down on their luck people in California, well, specifically LA. But maybe there's just a glimmer of hope. You just got to keep on keeping on, because what else is there? Which I guess is almost kind of existential. Like, what else are we going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, for an album this, I don't want to say depressing, but downbeat maybe, you know, you get that glimmer of hope at the end.
Yeah.
Nice way to end it.
Overall, David and David's Boomtown is a bit of a mixed bag. I get what they're going for with their music, trying to convey the messages they want to tell, but it's just a matter of execution. Some people will like how it sounds, others won't. I personally could leave it, but this album gave me some important reminders about life that I needed hearing, so I thank them for that. But will I listen to this album again? Nah, I don't want to be bored sifting through their music for messages I can hear sung by other artists I like better.
Interesting.
Yeah.
For me, this is a pretty solid 80s album. For the 80s, it's very grown up for the Coke and wine cooler decade.
Coke and wine cooler? Did you come up with that one just now?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I had to do some research to make sure that wine coolers were a very 80s thing and not just early 90s. And son of a gun, they were.
Oh, that's great.
Thankfully, yes. And I had my share of more than a few wine coolers and Coke, but Coca-Cola. Not the not the nose candy.
Not the powder.
Yeah. And the sound and production only could have happened in the mid-80s. And that's not a bad thing. It's big and cinematic, but it's not an overbearing sound. And I kind of wonder, could this album have even come out today? Maybe it could have, but it would be more of a niche type of product as opposed to being mainstream. which this definitely was back in the 80s. But yeah, decent album.
Okay.
Very decent album.
All right, as always, thank you for listening to the latest installment of My Dad Listens to This. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. If you follow me on social media, I post the episodes there. And if you're friends with my dad, shoot him an email about what episode you want, and he will send it right to your inbox. As always, thank you for listening to the latest installment of My Dad Listens to This. We'll be back next time with another album to nitpick and gripe about. Dad, anything you want to say to our loyal listeners before we sign off?
David and David are not Harry and David, and vice versa. Go look up Harry and David.
Have a good night.